Welcome to Cat the Minion YouTube channel. My name is Teresa, but you can call me Cat. Hopefully you can hear me over the fan. It's nowhere near as loud as the air conditioner, so hopefully this will be This is a Cat's Hit the Deck review, and we are doing the Sirian Starseed Tarot. So this is by Patricia Cori, and then either the illustrations are by Alysa Bartha or they work together on the illustrations. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. So this is published by North Atlantic Books. There's a picture on the back with a few of the cards and a description. It's just a close fit box there, little tabs on the side. So everything comes in the one box. This is the inside and the top, just plain. And so the cards would fit snugly in there, and then the book is about the same size as the cards. It might be a little bit not as wide. I mean, no, I guess it's about the same size as the cards. So it's just 85 pages. It's got little descriptions of the cards with little pictures next to them, has some information and so on. So it's got a nice little picture there in the front. It's the same picture on the front of the box as well. My sinuses are all chunky. The pollen's really getting me. So the back of the deck, mine is trimmed. It will have a few millimeters of border around it. So my cards are a little bit smaller than they would normally be. They're still huge. I don't really have a rule. Well, I've got my yardstick. Ninja my way down to the floor to get it. It's not supposed to be on the floor, but that's where it is right now. I'm knocking shit over. Okay. They're about 6 inches tall and like 3.75 wide. If you're doing centimeters, got like 14 and a half and about 9 and a half there. So they're pretty big. Even after trimming them, I still can't shuffle them like normal cards. Like, they're a little bit too long to do the sideways thing, so I have to get them in the corner, and they're kind of bent, but I make do. So these are a thick plastic kind of card. They work a little better now that, first of all, because they're broken in, and secondly, because I trimmed them. So when I first broke these in, some of the edges got a little bit like choppy. But again, because they're broken in, because I've trimmed them, they're working pretty well right now. They're very durable, I would say. I do think they have a paper core, but they are really plasticky on the outside. And they have this triangular spiral tetrahedral shape there with some stars in the background. Pardon me, my sinuses are all messed up. Maybe? Hold on. Alright. I think I'm ready now. I was going to start with the beginning and go from there while I'm showing these. So this deck has alternate names for some of the things in it. So instead of the Fool, it's called Starseed. And the idea is that there's a soul coming down into the earth from the stars. Much the same way that the Fool would jump off the cliff, and there's a crystal lotus down there in the ground. And these are presumably DNA strands trailing off of here. So this is where the Fool would be. And you can see that you can get different interpretations just by the title Starseed alone. In this, the magician is called Indigo. If you've heard of the Indigo children, you might have some understanding of what's going on with this card. Just trying to... Let me move the camera so I can actually see what I'm doing. There we go, that's better. I don't know why I didn't do that in the first place. Okay. No? I can't tell. Once I get going, it's going to make sense. Okay, so Indigo. This is where the magician would be. And I think there's another... Oh, I think it's the Dreams of Gaia Tarot has a card called the Child that this reminds me of. But this is sort of like you start with the Starseed card, and then when the child gets a little older, it's like an Indigo child. But it's this galactic energy coming and pouring through like all of their expression, and it comes into the magician because it's sort of like the difference between this starseed energy and the status quo for people. It seems like magic. So this is called Higher Self. This is where the High Priestess would be. And we see this High Priestess figure that you'd expect to see, but it is called Higher Self. So in this case, the information that you'd be downloading through this psychic cosmic network is directly from your higher self. Or it's sort of programmed in and brought with you. And we can see that there's galactic connections to the higher self in the background. Then we have these waters of frequency, waveforms. This is not a good direction for me to do these from. Put these over here so they're not in the screen. So the Empress here is called Abundance. And then you can see that the device from the back of the card is hanging over the Empress's head here. But the Empress is abundant. So it's sort of detaching it from the material world a little bit. She's out here in the cosmos creating energy structures. Here the Emperor is called Reason, and he's got the 5 platonic solids over his head. This comes in, and it does have a little bit more of like the Hermit and the Magician essences in it, just because the Emperor is drawn older and wiser. But it's because... But he holds the 4 symbols of the elements plus the spirit element as well. It's very clearly someone who's gone through the kingdoms. So it's not necessarily ruling, it's the ability to manage like multiple departments in your own mind. So 5, this is called Guidance. This is where the Hierophant would normally be. And this comes in more as how I normally see this card. Because for me, it's like that connection to the spiritual, getting downloads. The link between the material, like the ground, where he may be sitting here. This, I don't know if it's Buddha or if it's just a generic, like a Bodhisattva. I forgot what the differences between them are. And then the Sphinx behind there, which is supposed to be a repository of information. Right, so traditionally the Hierophant would be the Pope, right? And, you know, the Pope is supposed to be able to talk to God or whatever and then tells the people. But here it's like the guidance is on a pipeline to you directly. I'll leave that sideways because the Sphinx comes up again. So here's the Lovers. It's kind of awkwardly rendered, but it's 2 people, sort of sexy times looking, and there's smoke coming off of this ball of light here. Rainbow energy. So, I mean, typically what you'd see in a lot of Lovers cards, just rendered in this more, like, cosmic things, right? It kind of looks like the Aurora Borealis. So the Chariot. This is a multi-layered situation here. So instead of just one horse or two horses, now we have 5. So it's like this is sort of like where the masculine and the feminine are unified on their own side, and then they come together and they create a grander unification. So maybe that's what's going on there. And then the moon is huge behind here because it's ruled by the moon. Although I suppose it looks like they're walking on the sun. But whatever. Chariot. And so strength. So here we have a tiger instead of a lion, which is fine. We're getting some intense sacral energy. And here there's the feminine that you would often see with the lion, or in this case the tiger. On the strength card is drawn in the same way as the Lovers were, in this sort of wispy, sort of interdimensional soul body kind of thing. Sort of strength against the background of stars. Reflection. So this is what the Hermit is called, but that's basically what this does. So it's sort of like it's like renaming the cards what they do instead of their traditional names. You know, it's like this is a mirror, but we're going to call it a reflector because it reflects things. So going within, I'm reflecting on my past, that kind of stuff. But more or less what you'd expect to see for a hermit. So here the wheel is called the Great Wheel, and we're looking at the cosmos. It appears to be a spiral galaxy. We have the Ouroboros here, some almost rainbow energy going on, and then we have this atomic symbol, and then inside that is the hexagonal shape that has the flower of life pattern on it. So it gives this kind of wheel within a wheel within a wheel thing, but we're talking about the Great Wheel, so we're thinking about and sometimes in the regular wheel card, especially when it's got the symbols on the corners, it's dealing with the processional cycle, right? The great cosmic wheel. So this is like the bigger picture of things moving. So justice here, called divine justice. Look at this eyeball nebula here. Gorgeous. And of course justice is blind here. Again, it's not that different from what you would expect to see going on with justice, but there is this cosmic visual to go with it. And especially because it says divine justice. So this Starseed Tarot is very much linked into galactic energy instead of just the mundane. It's like, don't think about this in terms of what I'm doing today and tomorrow and next month. It's like, what am I doing for the next 2,000 years kind of energy. So the Hanged Man is called Hanging Man, and he's in a little prism there, swinging off a chain. This guy. Meditation. Yoga position there. Alright. The Hanging Man. So there isn't a tree, but he's a pendulum. And death in this deck is called Transition. So, transformation, transition, those kind of things. And we see the soul going through an interdimensional portal, instead of just sort of on and off death switch. We see this the transition as it happens. And then in this deck, Temperance is called alchemy. And what's being shown here is glass blowing, which does involve water. It involves fire, and then there's air involved because of glass blowing, and then there's earth involved too because of there's silica in there, which is rocks. It's dirt. So alchemy is the balancing of the tempering of the elements. Glass blowing. Although alchemy might have some like specific connotations. So again, if you're using this deck, the changes in the title of the cards might have something more to offer, like a synchronicity. So the devil in this deck is called the Shadow. The Shadow knows. But I would like to point out that our buddy the Sphinx is also on the Shadow card. Slightly different angle, I think. I like this card though, because it's at night, there's a masculine and a feminine here, but the shadow is cast on the Sphinx in the background here are distorted, they're stretched out. And then to obscure things further, there's a honkin' big spider web here. So I'm fully appreciative of this, but it's interesting that the Sphinx is there because there's still information to be had in the dark too. Right? What are we going to find that we weren't allowed to look at during the day? And there's sort of a standoff between the masculine and the feminine here as well. Shadow. So the tower, fairly typical for a tower. It's just an extreme close-up. We've got fire, we got lightning, we've got bodies, or a body falling out. And the star. So this is, I don't know if this is supposed to be Ra or Horus or Osiris, but one of those dudes, they're in the arc of the millions of years, and this is essentially a wormhole. But what we're looking at here is the star Sirius. And the Sirian Starseed Tarot, the star is focusing in on that star in particular. But this little space-time travel situation is sort of like interesting and appropriate and leads into this sort of ancient galactic connection. Also should point out that the Orion star system, Orion and Osiris are the same person. So it's probably Osiris, even though the star there is Sirius. So the moon card here is called Luna. And this is a close-up of the ocean, and then we got the moon back here, and then some star nursery or something going on behind it. Oh, there is a bug in here. So the sun here is called Solar Deity. So we have this, there's a little, there's a pattern here that reminds me of, what's it called? In the grass with the aliens and the fire and the nighttime. Crop circle. This reminds me of a crop circle. It's an extension of the flower of life pattern. If you do it enough iterations, it turns into this thing where it looks like a bunch of little, let me zoom in on that. It ends up looking like this. You can see the geometry there. It comes in this kind of spiral of cascading diamond shapes, which we see here. I believe there should be 144 of them there if it's done right, but I'm not about to count them. So we see the sun here with a huge coronal mass ejection, and a Pegasus. So got some, the wings there sort of indicating possibly interstellar travel. But there's like oh god damn it. I think Mercury retrograde is screwing up my ability to talk. Not that I needed help or an excuse. It makes me think of winged sun discs, like Sumerian winged sun discs, which have to do potentially with interdimensional or interstellar travel as well. So judgment in this deck is called Karma, which I really appreciate because it helped me understand what the judgment card does. And there's this lotus shape that was that crystal form on the Fool card right here, like that. Lotus. Also having to do with this flower of life pattern. These guys right here. Like so. So Karma. I like how this this water interference pattern is square. It's like, hold on a second. It's like not always what you think it's gonna be. Like, since when is water square? It brings attention to it. But yeah, Karma, clearing, letting everything. It's like letting the old stuff go down the drain, clearing it out. Ascension is right in there. Slightly different meaning, but still, you know, closing the chapter. So 21 here, the world is called Ascension. Right? It's like once you clear the karma, you can ascend to this realm of this lotus here. Right? You've ascended, you graduated. And there's a bunch of different planets here in a string, and it reminds me of this, like, the first world, the second world, the third world, the fourth world, and now we're supposed to be in the fifth world phase of Earth, which is what this feminine is holding here. And there's another big one right here too, right? It's like all the different dimensional versions or past versions, but the key here is ascension, right? Moving on up, right? And then the world, just the world in general. 21. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna pull this in a little bit more so I don't have to lean forward as far. I should try to, oops. It's like, let me straighten it out so the table doesn't look lopsided. Move this over a little bit. Okay. So, in this deck, the wands, which are sometimes called fire, but they're called flames here. They're also called rods. Rods, flames, fire, wands. So the ace... So these are like fancy golden torches. Alright, and get some kerosene down in there and light them up. So, not just oily rags on a stick here. So the ace of flames, big stick floating in the sky. Pretty evident there. A lot of fiery colors. There is kind of a sunset going on here. There's some like twinkly stars. And the two of flames, I really like this card. So we have the earth here, and we have these eyes back here. It's can be kind of like you're really looking at someone. When I see this card, they look like rockets, and I'm like, ooh, failure to launch. So the cosmic imagery, and especially these eyes here too, it does give it it can give it alternate meanings to the standard making a choice, trying to learn how to trust or not trust somebody, deals and so forth. But again, sometimes, especially this one with just the two of them, they look like little rockets to me. Can you see that? No, I guess you can't. You can just see where I just scratched it. I was just trying to see if... I guess you can kind of... I was trying to see if my chicken pox scar was visible on the camera. So 3 of flames. Somebody looking off into the distance. I think it's a field. I don't see any ships there. But this is sort of, you know, the 2 flames from before here, and then the thing that you're looking towards out on the horizon. It's really shimmery, light-filled thing here. Looks like fiber optics. I'm flipping that over that way. So the 4 of flames here. So I don't know if this is this the first one that I saw where it was like a castle front? I think so. But we have the four flames that are often like the 4 corners of a building. Here it's all on the facade of this castle, and normally they would be kind of forming a square, or would be like a canopy of flowers draped between them. But it's like building the foundation. And here it's like not only did we build a foundation, we get this fort going, we had a drawbridge, we got a welcome mat, and all kinds of shit. Okay, so 5 of flames. This sun here, it could be a sunrise, it could be sunset. It gives me a little bit more... Those are really glowing. It gives me a little bit more sunrise. Like it's... And there's 5 fists in the dark holding these, and it kind of gives me the impression that these people have been fighting all night, and they're still arguing when the sun comes up. But it doesn't have to be. But I mean, it's more or less standard for the 5 of flames. But I'm looking at all of these, and they all have to have these horizons on them, right? We're looking into the sky. It's kind of, it really does look like several panels indicating a sunrise. Neato. Hadn't noticed that before. So the 6, someone who these were the ones that were fighting. Meanwhile, this one's captured the light of the sun that was right there. It's like you guys are wasting your time. I'm gonna get this. So we have a winner here. Winner, chicken dinner. So the 7. So this would be a defense position, right? It's like you're not coming for my title. Like, I'm the one on stage here. We're about to light her dress on fire, too. So the 8 of flames, I like that the torches are all connected into a wheel of fire. It's creating a portal, and it's pretty badass. I love it. So the 9 of flames, right in front of a pyramid. This dude has been guarding this forever. He's like, there's not even any dead bodies in here. What's going on, man? I'm so bored. And he's kind of beat up too. He's got, he's got a wound on his head, and he's like, come on, man. And this is, I managed to bend this card somehow. Womp womp. 10 of flames. I appreciate what's going on with this one. In order to show the burden, this guy has got 9 of those heavy metal torches strapped to his back, but has been down in the darkness and is now able to at least ascend, but still having to carry all this crap with him. There's other ways that this could be interpreted, but I like the way that this has been drawn. Or rendered, whatever. They're like partly, I think they're mostly photoshopped. There's stuff that's definitely photos, and then some stuff that looks like it was drawn. Like maybe somebody 3D modeled the torches, but then the people are ones that were like some of the background and some of the, and especially Sekhmet, and then some of the people were like stock images that were then doctored, but who knows. So in this deck, the pages are called Seekers. So we have the Seeker of Flames, a page or an 11. So the Sekhmet here, and they've gone into that temple, right? It's like in the pyramid. Underneath the pyramid, somebody hit, like this poor guy has not been relieved and had to go all the way down in there. It find out where to put all these torches for the nighttime. And someone's in there looking to learn how to harness this power. So that's the page. The knights in this deck are called adept. Right? They're in training. So we have the Adept of Flames. This guy's solar center is lit up. He's been candle gazing. He's working on his mojo. There's some smoke in the background. The queens in this deck are called sages. Right? They've learned a lot. They're wise. So the Sage of Flames here, the queen, she is fully engaged in the power of the fire. And the kings are called masters. So the master of the flames. It's almost indicating that this guy is in charge of the sunset itself. And look, here's this pyramid again, and there's another temple wall there. All right, presumably this guy's out in the desert. Right, he's become one with the nature of the rays of the heat and all that. And I like that the king and the queen aren't just sitting on their throne. They look like they're out and about and doing stuff. Also like this representation, this Native American looking guy. Some diversity in these tarot decks, man. Okay. So the Ace of Chalices. So the cups in this deck are called chalices. I don't remember if I've seen them called chalices somewhere else, but so cups, water, and chalices. I think those are the variations that I remember. And are they all like this? I think they're all these sort of frosted gold-stemmed wine glass looking things. Is that? Oh, it is hands. It looks like those, like a blue version of those shrimp hands that came up out of the table in Beetlejuice, but it's two hands together, not just one. So the cup overfloweth out in the ocean itself. Ace of Chalices. So we have the two, this romance novel cover here. Like Fabio or not Fabio. And the little butterfly over there. I mean, standard two of chalices. It's pretty cheesy. So we have the three. There's the... I believe that's three people. I'm going to say three women, but it looks like two dudes and a woman. I don't know. Anyway, three gender non-denominational people partying in the misty background. The mirage over the ocean, but this is generally the party atmosphere card. Celebrate good times, come on. Four of Chalices. So we have the three cups where the person is like, oh man, I don't like this. And then we have the cosmic cup being offered by the divine as a dolphin. It's like, hi, my name is Dolphin, I'll be your waiter. There's a star here. This person, she's looking up at it, and I believe in the book this is, I want to go home, I don't like it here energy. Particularly with this deck, instead of just generic apathy. Oh, the battery's gonna go pretty soon. Five of Cups. Five of Chalices. I don't get this card very often with this deck. Where's the fifth one? Oh, there it is. Okay. So there's one there, and there, and there. Those are the broken ones. And then the two that are still good, sort of back in, a little bit set in the background. And this female character here, or I mean feminine character, is really sad and crying into their knees there. So, I have not seen this card that much in this deck. I get the Five of Cups in other decks, but not this one as much. Six of Chalices. So, sparkling dust on this childhood memory kind of scene here. Here, a hug instead of one offering the other a cup, but set up in this hexagonal grid here. I'm going to change the battery because I've only got a couple minutes left on this section anyway. Alright, so 7 of Cups in this deck is a literal spiral staircase because there's a golden spiral right here. I like this configuration because it indicates that it might not necessarily be options or distractions. It's like a series of steps of all this crap to deal with before getting to where you really want to. So there could be an alternate meaning there, but I really like that this isn't a spiral staircase. 8 of Chalices. This one, the only thing that's missing is a mountain. But in lieu of a mountain, there's a huge sand dune. So it could be the ocean, but it looks more like the desert. Right? I might want to hold on to this water for this long journey that I have, but I know that it's ultimately going to do more harm than good. And I'll walk away from it. So 9 of Cups here, we have this sunbeam splitting as it goes into the temple. Or it could be a store or somebody's house or storehouse. It looks like a temple though because there's these papyrus columns. And also set up in a V formation, which is unusual. So this is open to interpretation with a slightly different imagery than usual. And the 10. I do recall seeing a rainbow fairly often in the 10 of Chalices. So we're like basically Niagara Falls here. And this crystal water tower. Extra special, sparkly, fancy. So the Seeker, the Page, doing that aerial jumping up out of the water kind of move there. And the Adept here. This is cool. I love how this guy's body surfing. And if you look closely, you can see that he's in a giant cup. He's not out in the open ocean, but he's learning to coast on these huge waves. Whereas this person, they're like, oh, I just want to play in the water. And this person's like, I'm challenging myself. So you have the Sage here. This is the Queen. She's got a lagoon. I don't know if I get her very often. But she's in the water. She's of the water. She's examining stuff in the water. I don't see a fish there, but the Queen of Cups is usually holding a cup, so there she is. Okay, so the Master of Chalices. This eyes reminds me a little bit of that Two of Wands. But, look at this. Surveying the whole ocean. Right? I have become commander of the waves, basically. What is the King? Is that Neptune energy? Because this is giving me Neptune energy. It's supposed to be Libra and Scorpio. That's weird. Well, anyway. So the Ace of Swords. In this deck, the swords are called orbs. So swords is communication and perception. So if you're having communication and it's coming in from a galactic source, you might get pinged by an orb. Right? It's a way of communicating. And you could think of it as like light flashing Morse code, like a sound bubble, something like that. So here, the swords are called orbs, and we see a dolphin here hanging out with the ace. There's rainbow action here. So the two of orbs, we still have the feminine practicing with the two orbs. Here, she's not on the land, she's on these rocks that are sitting just above the water. And there's a vulnerability involved here, too. 3. This is the emotional pain card. So we see this lightning coming down. It looks like an electrical storm. Like these things are... almost like these things are magnetic and it's drawing the charge somehow. Or however that works. But there's some light trying to break in over in the distance in the darkness. This looks like the eye of the storm right here. So we have the 4. So typically in a 4 of Swords card you see the knight or a statue, like a sarcophagus lid carved to look like a knight sleeping. It's resting. And this person is in a rest mode. They're meditating. And there's usually 3 swords separate from 1 sword. So we have the 3 orbs of pain, and then down here where the root chakra is, it's like these are hanging over my head, and then the truth is coming up from where I can find some grounding. So there's a little bit of extra information going on with this. And also I like that it's just in a line. Like, reminds me of Connect 4. Or those Megabucks drawings with little balls that drop out. So we have the 5 of orbs here. This snakeskin gesture with oh my god, snakeskin jester without a face. And usually with the 5 swords, there's 2 that are separate, but there's 3 that are being juggled, and there's 2 on the ground that look cracked and broken, which is slightly different than normal. But we're still in this kind of nightmare zone. 5 of Swords is like mind games. And the 6. So these are set up like when Sonic wins at Chaos Emeralds. But we have a dolphin taking this kind of power-up energy with it. It's like I'm riding the surface, like I'm on top kind of energy. And then, look, there's a Metatron's cube over here. It's a hexagonal situation. 7 of orbs. This is sort of that ninja theft energy, but this guy is so intent on grabbing as many of these for himself as he can that he totally spaced and missed these ones over here. Not only that, but his air balloon's about to keel over, and they're like, hey, look at this guy over here. Womp womp. So 8 of orbs. See this feminine figure as usual, trapped and blindfolded, kind of in a thicket of some sort. Not a thicket, but like a tangled mass of plants, let's say, and these orbs are just kind of stuck in there. But I mean, they're almost out of this haunted woods. They just, and these vines don't look that big. It's like if you really wanted to, you could break out. And what's nearby but water? With this particular 8 of orbs, the mental prison looks very clearly more like it has to do with emotional issues that aren't really. It's like it won't take that much to cross this, right? You don't have to ford the wagon or whatever. But it's a matter of, are you that afraid just to get your toes wet? And here's the nightmare itself. Now I'm in that haunted wood, but I'm in a hole as well. And got all these orbs hanging over. So this is the fear card itself. And the 10. So this is a person face down, their head's over here. So you get 10 orbs hanging over, and it looks like stuff that's bubbling up, except that it's coming down from above. It's like raining down on me. Like I'm being pelted by a ball pit at Chuck E. Cheese. So the Seeker, the Page. I don't think I get this one that often, but I know I've had it before. Oh, they've got a glowing orb. Okay, so they got one that they're looking at. They've gone deep down into the orb mine to find out where these things keep coming into this dimension. So the Adept. This is where Knight would be. So this guy is learning how to manage the orbs, how to send a message. Right? He's like programming a hologram to send to somebody, right? Like Princess Leia programming R2-D2 to give a message. So he's talking about how he's going to be coming on a horse, and he's going to send that message ahead. Pretty nifty. Only the Sage of Orbs. So the Queen of Swords. I like how this is done as a mosaic. And the orb here is actually kind of the halo. But she's holding a sword as well. Looking a little bit like Lady Justice, perhaps. But not that unexpected, because for me the Queen of Swords is a low vibration of justice anyway. And then the High Priestess too. So it's like, learn about the orbs, master the orbs, become the orb. The Sage, somebody who's wise in the ways of orbs. And then the Master of Orbs, the King. So the King is also holding a sword, actual facts, and then he's sitting in an orb. It's like he's made the orb world his throne, and he's way up in the sky. He's a little bit boring, but I mean they're kind of similar. He's got these pillar things carved onto his throne, and she's sitting between two of them. Kind of like you would expect the High Priestess to be, but also a low vibration of the High Priestess. Okay. In this deck, the pentacles are called crystals. I've seen them as called coins, I've seen them called earth, but in here they're called crystals. But you can see that crystals are very much of the earth. But if you think of, I mean, even these rocks are crystalline, but people usually think of crystals as being like clear and sparkly and like pretty gem quality kind of crystals. Which kind of, it like brings it up to that galactic level, that sort of light pouring out of it kind of thing. So here we have the Ace of Crystals, like super mega ginormous crystal. And the Two of Crystals. So this is a guy who's trying to harness both of these energies. It's not necessarily that he's juggling too much at once or trying to make a choice, which is what this card often comes into. But we still see the Two of Crystals with somebody who's near the water. Sometimes it's somebody who's on the beach, sometimes they're treading water, and there's often a ship in the background, and we see that here. Now, this Two of Crystals I enjoy particularly, not only because there's this yin-yang here, but it's echoed in the crystals. So there's a crystal spire here, it looks like a phallic symbol, and then there's a sphere, right, the roundness, the feminine, and it's got a little incision in it there, and it's a geode, right, so you can see the crystal interior. So Three of Crystals, there's the symbol from the back of the card. So it just says Trinity, it's like the name of this shop, right? Presumably you go in there to buy the crystals. Or it's like a church, like a cathedral. Where's the Four? Okay, so the Four is usually holding on, like not knowing when to hold or when to fold. Here, this guy meditating in this crystal pillar crystal grid kind of gives me a little bit more of the Four of Wands, but I don't think I've gotten this card very often in this deck. It's kind of like it's kind of like he's in a timeout trying to figure out what he's doing. He's just hanging out with his crystal collection. My hoard in my cellar. This Five of Crystals. There's some broken crystals right here. And then there's 4 people in the background. They're having a little like witch meeting or seance or something, and they're like they didn't invite you. And you found out afterwards, and then when you got there they had broken all your stuff. That's sort of the narrative that's going on here. Like, you can't come play with us. You gotta sit this one out, but we're gonna make you watch. So the Six of Crystals. Well, this is weird. The person that's giving out something to other people is a feminine in this. Usually it's a masculine. But not only that, but she's in the scale. Kind of reminds me of Monty Python in the Holy Grail. Like, this is a duck and this is the thing. But she's giving flowers, like, which is a little bit unusual. So not the typical Six of Crystals imagery, but still you see some kind of generosity and a scale involved. Materials. Seven of Crystals. This is okay. So notice how there's a tower kind of looming in the background here. The Seven of Crystals is that sort of patience for the harvest thing. And it looks like this person is like learning how to work with and set these up. But if I look at this Eight of Crystals, it looks like that, you know, maybe a couple months later, the person got a haircut or something, and he's learning to stack them up in a certain order based on their frequency, and we're a little bit closer to this tower. But if I look at this, I see that 8 is half of 16, and that could be the tower that's in the tower card. But these look very much related. This is like I'm impatient, or I'm waiting for something to happen, and this is I'm doing the work. Or I did my homework and now I know what I'm doing. And the 9. Right, look at this, all this stuff that came up out of her garden. Oh, the single ladies card there. So the 10 of Crystals here, I think in the book it with this one in particular, if I remember, it says something about like making sure that once you've got all this stuff that someone isn't coming in to steal it, which I thought was an unusual interpretation. But 10 of Pentacles is like all the stuff and things. So they have the Seeker of Crystals. This is the page here. What's that? She looks like she's looking into an orb, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but presumably there's some kind of glowing crystal situation happening. Perhaps in a cave, digging around, looking for stuff. Oh, I guess that makes sense, because this one, there's like a glowing crystal thing, and then in the night, the Adept, you can see that this guy is like intentionally putting energy into the crystal to get energy. I mean, to get it to glow. Right, this is like, ooh, what's going on here? And this is like, oh, now I can do it on purpose. Manifestation. And then the Sage of Crystals. Oh, she's got a crystal skull, and she's getting a download here. Just wise and understanding of manifestation. connected to this cosmic information, grounded, right? She's out grounding in nature to be able to it's kind of like being a lightning rod for what's coming out of that crystal skull. Let me zoom in on that a little bit. There, crystal skull. You see the energy is sort of sucking up it towards her face, like the information is going towards her. And then, oh, let me zoom this back out. Okay, so there's the queen, and then the king is the crystal skull itself. It's the master of crystals, the king of pentacles in this deck is the crystal skull, right? The master. I am manifesting. I know the things. All right, so that's what's going on with this deck, and it's quite heavy when they're all together like this. You can hear how heavy that is. So it does take a little bit of finessing to get this deck to shuffle. It looks easy, but it's because my deck is broken in. Is it showing? It's a little bit bent at this point. I don't know if you can see that in these cards. They're a little bit bent. Sometimes I'll do the old shuffling this way. They're a little bit too big for my hands, even after trimming them, to do an easier shuffle. So I do them that way. Again, these are broken in for almost 2 years, I guess. And then flick them that way. Another way to do that is to get them at the corner. Just at the corner. And then kind of push it, well, maybe not that way, but if you can get them at the corner, like if you have smaller hands. There we go. Like that. So you can kind of see that they're bent. They're a little bit bent. I've tried to keep them from getting bent by doing them the other way. And once these are broken in, they don't really want to go the other way at all, just because they're so big and they have that thick plasticky texture. I guess some people don't mind if their cards are bent because it just means they're broken in more. But I don't like them. I think partly because if they're shiny like this and they get rounded, then it kind of reflects more than it needs to. But whatever. Yeah, they are pretty shiny though. And yeah, they can be kind of slippery. They're not as slippery as the Gilded Reverie Lenormand, but these still have a significant amount of slip to them. So anyway, that's what's going on with those. Put them back in a stack here. You can hear how loud that is, that it's quite thick and heavy. I just felt I heard, like, what do you pair them with? I did get, what is it? The Starseed Oracle. I just got the Starseed Oracle, and I feel like that would go well with this. And I think this would probably work well with the Thoth deck. But, I mean, it works just as well with the mini Rider-Waite, too. Or just any Rider-Waite. What would I not use it with? For some reason, I feel like this shouldn't really be used with the Lover's Oracle, and I don't know why. But most people, I would say most people have, like, a lot more decks than I do, or different decks than I do anyway. And maybe you'd be better off using an earthy deck. Probably not the Dreams of Gaia, because they both skew a little bit unusual and like semi-oracle, but if you've got other decks that have a lot of earth energy, that might help pull these down and clear up the messages. I'm trying to think of what I have. Oh, I know. The one that I have that's an like more of an earth deck is the Wild Unknown Tarot, and that would work well as a pairing with that. So my little silicone band here. All right, so if you comment and let me know if you find these reviews interesting or useful, and if you'd like to see more content like this or help support the free readings that I do put up, I would encourage you to... Sorry, that's flapping around. My fan is blowing in this direction. You can donate, energy exchange, hit that tip jar, PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo. The list of readings that I offer and how much they cost is going to be in the description box underneath here. And I have coloring books, dark poetry, merch prints, actual art items. There's a coupon code for Etsy for a chunk off, and that should pop in if you go through the link tree. So linktr.ee/catdominion. I am going to eventually add new stuff to Etsy. I would like to kind of move the stuff in there that I've got right now. Some of it's not that expensive, like 15, 20 bucks. And then others of it's more expensive. I've got some chapbook packs, which is like having a few cards chucked at you for synchronicity purposes, and those are only a few bucks each. So a lot of that's going to be psychedelic like this. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, check out my playlists tab, my discussion tab, and stay groovy, and we'll see you later. Bye.